How would it feel if you could take the helm and lead your ship? Welcome to the LeadUrship interviews. Here we speak to female leaders or those who are empowering women in leadership from all walks of life. Come and learn, grow, and expand your potential in the ocean of possibilities that we will hear from these experienced leaders. Join me, Alison, from Pearl Potential Coaching and Hypnotherapy on my journey to spark change in you, young leaders, and prepare to separate yourself from your peers and be the next leader of your field. Lead your ship and discover your potential. The LeadUrship program from Pearl Potential Coaching and Hypnotherapy is for young leaders who are looking to make your mark early in your field. You can stand out from your fellow peers and colleagues by taking charge of your journey and living life to your fullest potential. Sign up now for the LeadUrship program, where you will learn new skills and strategies that can be used within your career and personal life. We know that when you lead your ship, you can open new opportunities to grow and learn. And the more opportunities you embrace, the more you will lead with purpose, intention, and full alignment to who you are. The LeadUrship course offers exciting and new themes such as choice, modeling, embracing uncertainty, setting boundaries, and leveling up your communication and presentation skills. This is a great opportunity at an affordable price to set yourself apart and reach your leadership potential. You will be offered different course electives so you can focus on areas of improvement. With multiple opportunities to check in with me, Alison, the Leadership Program Developer and owner of Pearl Potential Coaching and Hypnotherapy. I am so excited to see you navigate this new journey and watch you set sail into new destinations that you have never explored. We will uncover your pearls of wisdom and create a brighter and better future for you as a leader and those that you influence. Come on board and explore the ocean of possibilities. Be your captain, lead your ship, and discover your potential. Hi everyone, it's Alison here from Pearl Potential Coaching and Hypnotherapy. Today we have Jane Claxton. Jane is a veteran Hockeyroos playing for the Australian national team. Field hockey, for those who are overseas or in the US or Canada, field hockey is the game. And I'm super excited to have you, Jane, because I get to talk to you all about your leadership, your captaincy in the Hockeyroos, and your role in the leadership group as well, and all the many caps that you have achieved with the girls. So can you start for us about how did you get into the sport, and what was your progress from being a junior all the way through to the Hockeyroos?
Thanks, Al. Yeah, huge privilege to be asked to come on board, to be identified as a worthy participant. But yeah, hockey has probably been more of a family sport from the get-go. My dad is heavily involved in hockey and always has been. My mum obviously gets drawn along for the ride. But yeah, my dad has played, coached, managed, done a lot of administrative type roles in hockey since I think it'd be over 60 years, I reckon. And so growing up, I was often at a hockey field either watching play or coach. And so naturally, I progressed into the sport myself.
Yeah, amazing. Sounds like he's been a massive influence. And I've been lucky enough to, well, firstly play alongside you and have you as my captain in multiple teams, but also to be coached by your dad here and there throughout state journeys and things like that, which has been awesome. So I had know firsthand his passion for the sport and how it's sort of flowed into your passion as well. So getting into the Hockeyroos, such a big milestone, and it has been a long time, I guess, that you've been with the group. How does it feel now, like looking back and reflecting on the time that you went through to get into the Hockeyroos, and when you see new faces, the likes of like Lucy Sharman, one of my personal favourites, of course, being a bit biased here, having played with her and known her, seeing the likes of these junior girls coming into the squad, what do you notice that's different from like when you came into now? And, you know, is there certain things that people look for coming into the squad?
Yeah, it's 11 years I think this year, which actually has gone by in a blink of an eye. They always tell you that when you first come into the program and you never believe it. But yeah, I think the difference is generationally, the generation coming in to sport and high performance sport has a very different mentality. They're a lot more confident in who they are as people and their strengths. And I think yes, that can have pros and cons, but yeah, it's impressive how they hold themselves. And particularly you mentioning Lucy, she's so mature beyond her years. I don't think I would have had the maturity at that same age. How she's come into the program and interacts with people, and the professionalism she already has is incredible. And I think that's probably testament also to the institutes that a lot of these athletes are coming from. They're hiring the standard of what they're doing to, I guess, train these athletes to be better at that transition. So there's a lot more awareness, I think, from an institutional level in each of the states of how to prepare these athletes. I think maybe when I was coming through, that wasn't a huge focus. There was, yeah, I think now we're trying to be more, I guess, well-rounded athletes, and it's not just you as a hockey player, but it's you as a person, how you interact with other people, what's your life outside of hockey to have that balance. And more girls that are coming into the program at that younger age have that already nailed down, whereas it took me probably like 4 years to really settle in to what I was as a person, how I wanted to be perceived, how I interacted in a group setting, but also how I managed my life outside of hockey. And so it's impressive how well they kind of integrate into the elite sport framework.
Yeah. I know that there's like a bit more of a focus now, like you mentioned, on the person as who they are, and they need to have a bit of a balance outside of hockey. I know that you spent probably the first few years, particularly in the Hockeyroos, very hockey focused, and I think there was a time where it was almost hard to do anything else outside of hockey, like getting part-time work or studying and things like that. So what kind of like where was that culture shift, sort of what time period, and how did that culture shift change, well, from your perception anyway?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was a huge shift for us when I first came into the program. As you said, there was just a huge focus on hockey, and hockey is your priority, and everything outside of hockey is a distraction, which sounds really awful now looking back, but at the time I bought into that mentality. And our trainings were 9 till 12, and then you'd have a small break and maybe train in the afternoon. So the capacity to study, work, anything outside of hockey was minimalized by that programming. And then probably I think post Rio Olympics, there was a huge turnover in staff and players, but also deep dive into the culture of Hockey Australia as a whole. And one of those things was flagged as being these girls, in particular the girls, I'm not sure about the men, have such a singular focus that if that singular focus breaks down, so deselection, long-term injury, what else do they have to lean on? We're not creating resilient people if they only have quite a singular focus and only kind of one sphere in their life that is being concentrated on. So yeah, it's probably from 2016, there was a transition period of people getting used to being able to train and play, but also balancing university jobs, placement, and things like that. And there was a shift in Hockey Australia's scheduling of our training, so it's outside of work hours, and we have a dedicated 2 days off a week, whether that's one on the weekend, one during the week, to really allow girls to grow outside the sport. So it's probably been since that 2017 investigation that then they started implementing and realizing how actually beneficial it is to have athletes that are quite well-rounded, and it creates a lot more resilience. And also you really start to appreciate the opportunity of being an athlete. I know I go to work in my job outside of hockey every day and go, wow, like it's incredible that I get to do something that I actually really love, because there's minimal jobs out there in the big adult world where people can go, I'm incredibly in love with every aspect of my role.
Yeah, Yeah, that's really cool to hear. When you were talking then, I was just thinking, do you know of the comparison with international hockey? You know, we've got this focus in Australia now on building the person outside of hockey. Is that the same internationally, do you know?
I think it depends on the country. There's a lot of countries, like probably in Europe, where they're better paid to be hockey players specifically. So you look at like an AFL player in Australia, they probably don't have a lot outside of playing football whilst their career's active. I'd say in Europe, particularly, that's probably more of the case because of the higher pay percentage. But in saying that, I know a lot of the European girls also are studying and have something else outside for the mental health aspect. Yeah, I think we're driving it pretty strongly in Australia because we're not really that paid that well. And so we have to be able to work to support our hockey. So it has to be accommodated for, but in Europe, it's probably not as accommodated for.
Mm. And with that change for you, you're now graduated as an occupational therapist. How was it changing from going straight into hockey and knowing that that's just what's going to be your focus to then being allowed to study and then start working and actually build a career in occupational therapy for you, but for others, obviously, other roles? How was that shift for you? And, you know, obviously exciting, but also maybe a little bit weird to change your mentality around it?
Yeah, it was probably came towards the end of my uni degree. I took about, I think, 7.5 or maybe nearly 8 years to get my degree just because of the part-time element. But so it came in probably towards the end of my degree. I graduated in 2019. Um, so yeah, it came at a time where I was transitioning into the real world of work. And that was probably more difficult than trying to juggle university and training, because university has that flexible element where you can just tune into tutorials online, whereas working life, you have to be physically present, especially in the health field. So I think for a good 2 years, I convinced myself I had chronic fatigue because I just wasn't used to it. I was used to being quite singular, and hockey was my priority. And if I could fit in uni, I would dial it back depending on my hockey commitments. Whereas with work, that's just not, that doesn't exist. When you're at work, they're expecting you to work. So yeah, it took me a while to adjust, but now it's such my norm that if I have more days off of work, I get really bored. I think that's sometimes dangerous, but yeah, I've realized recently I dropped down to 3 days because it's an Olympic year. And on my days off during the week, I'm like, gosh, what am I going to do with all my time? So it's interesting how it becomes your new normal. There is, yeah, a teething period where it seems really bad and you seem quite overwhelmed. But if you can get past that and have the supports in place to help you, you get to, I guess, accustomed to it.
Mm. So you mentioned it is an Olympic year, and we're super excited to see the Hockeyroos play in Paris later on this year, which is amazing. You're preparing now for your third Olympics campaign. You had Rio and then Tokyo, which was obviously delayed by the year with COVID. But each Olympic campaign, if you compare those last two that you've had, and Tokyo being, you know, a complete beast of itself, each year, how is it different for you that you've noticed the changes, and sort of what's the path for Paris at the moment that you guys are heading on?
Yeah, for Rio, I was probably a young kid. I was the junior in the team, kind of bushy-tailed, bright-eyed, going into my first Olympics. No one expecting much of me because I was quite young and inexperienced compared to my peers. Tokyo made this really contrasting experience because I was suddenly one of the senior members in a team that had probably a lot more juniors in it. Also culturally, we obviously had two different coaches, so how they approach running a program and things like that is obviously different. But Tokyo was probably a bit more traumatic leading in because we had a coach change about 2 to 3 months out, which is incredibly rare. Usually it's a coach change every cycle at the start of each cycle. But we had some kind of an internal cultural issue, which led to the head coach at the time leaving. And so that was just interesting. I think it was difficult, but at the time, all we kind of focused on was we can't control that. Like, let's put a band-aid on it for the time being, focused on the Olympics. This is still our Olympic team. And we'll put all our focus into that. And then after, we can discuss how we can better approach it next time if there are those types of cultural issues. So yeah, it was going from being that junior to more of a senior, and also battling a lot of different barriers comparatively.
And with Tokyo, that change of coach only a few months out, I'd imagine the team itself had to really gel together and come together as a group to overcome that hurdle. Often, even though lots of team sports are driven by team mentalities, losing a coach or having that change in coach can be quite destructive in a lot of ways. So how did the girls, or how did you see the team really come together to overcome that challenge?
Yeah, I guess with any changes in coaching staff do impact the players, but I think even harder for us, there was an internal investigation on our culture that showed that there was a rift within the playing group in terms of our opinions and approaches to playing, training, lifestyle, and there was differing opinions in the group. So you're battling that as well. So that was difficult because you sort of had to put that in a box to the side and go, yep, I understand there's an individual in my team that I might not totally agree with their perception of what's happened in the last 12 months or whatever the time period was. But a hockey player and the skills and the knowledge they have and what they're going to deliver for this team. So that was actually a really big learning curve for me in terms of setting aside my personal opinions and where I sat in that whole process and where others sat, and just going, that's irrelevant. And you can only do that for a short period of time. So we were probably lucky that it was such a short period of time. So moving past that as a group was quite challenging. But then also, I think the coach coming in, who is now our current coach, and Katrina Powell, she had a really good mentality coming in. She didn't want to come in and change everything and, I guess, put her stamp on something that was already a difficult situation. She kind of came in and go, okay, what's your current way of play? What's your current culture like? And just let's stick to that for the time being and develop that, and I guess develop a harmony within the group again and develop some bonds leading into what can be a really hard and tough tournament, rather than coming in and dropping bombs everywhere and going, this is wrong, that's wrong, you can't do this, you can't do that. She just kind of came in, seamlessly fit into the group at the time. And that approach, I think, helped dramatically in terms of how we ended up performing at the Olympics.
Yeah, that's really really interesting to hear about. And obviously Trini Powell's such an awesome player. So someone that probably a lot of the team had looked up to as younger athletes going through their hockey career. So it's nice to almost have like that familiar face as well coming into that role. So you said, the focus was on just building on what had already been set for that tournament and then maybe changing strategies. What was, after that Tokyo Olympics, what was the change in strategy for your culture, and what was your involvement as someone that's, a senior member and such a leader in the team?
Yeah, so leading into Tokyo, I was probably in more the peripheral leadership group. We had three leaders, and then after Tokyo, that kind of all got disbanded and we kind of started from scratch again. So that's how I guess I started my, integration into the leadership group, was probably at that time when we kind of revisited everything, not only in our leadership group, but our culture as a general piece. And Katrina really drove that and kind of understanding, where did we go wrong? Where was the miscommunications? And we started, I guess, drawing on experts within the field, and we actually got involved with a lady called Emma Murray. I'm not too sure if you're familiar with her, but she's somewhat of a guru in the high performance mindset space. And she kind of sat us down, and we all individually worked on our own mindsets, because at the end of the day, all you can control is your thought processes. You cannot control other people's. And so that kind of really narrowed our focus onto the fact that we shouldn't really be getting involved in each other's mindsets, rather than staying in your lane, controlling what you can. And then as human nature, we will eventually kind of come together in a common goal. So I think that was crucial in our development, is developing our own mental skills and resilience and processes, to then it ultimately contributing to our team's success later on. But it was probably a 12-month process after Tokyo that really started having an impact on our performances on the field. And that's the hard thing, is that so many people want instantaneous solutions to those types of things, but it's not, especially in a team dynamic. Everyone has a different way of looking at things. Everyone comes from a different walk of life. And so, yeah, it took a long time for all of us to kind of grow and develop those skills.
Yeah, and it's a really good point you make around reflecting in on who you are and the things that you're putting out to the group, and leading yourself first and changing your mindset first as an individual to positively impact the group. And I think there's a lot of takeaways there when, for people that are watching that might work with teams or might be a team player and see different dynamics and cultures, how they can reflect about what they're perceiving and how they're reacting to it to positively influence the group, which is really, really cool. Lead your ship and discover your potential. The leadership program from Pearl Potential Coaching and Hypnotherapy is for young leaders who are looking to make your mark early in your field. You can stand out from your fellow peers and colleagues by taking charge of your journey and living life to your fullest potential. Sign up now for the LeadUrship program, where you will learn new skills and strategies that can be used within your career and personal life. We know that when you lead your ship, you can open new opportunities to grow and learn. And the more opportunities you embrace, the more you will lead with purpose, intention, and full alignment to who you are. The LeadUrship course offers exciting and new themes such as choice, modeling, embracing uncertainty, setting boundaries, and leveling up your communication and presentation skills. This is a great opportunity at an affordable price to set yourself apart and reach your leadership potential. You will be offered different course electives so you can focus on areas of improvement. With multiple opportunities to check in with me, Alison, the leadership program developer and owner of Pearl Potential Coaching and Hypnotherapy. I am so excited to see you navigate this new journey and watch you set sail into new destinations that you have never explored. We will uncover your pearls of wisdom and create a brighter and better future for you as a leader and those that you influence. Come on board and explore the ocean of possibilities. Be your captain, lead your ship, and discover your potential. From someone watching along the side, you can see a really good dynamic at the moment in the team. That's just from an observer's opinion. How does it feel? Like, I would imagine there's a lot of excitement this year, being an Olympic year, but maybe also a bit of pressure. So how does that sort of come out in different ways?
Yeah, we're very cognizant of our lack of Olympic success, particularly in the last 2 cycles. And I guess what precedes us in that golden era of the Hockeyroos, and every commentator will commentate on it during the Olympics or tournaments leading in. And the fact is, we've actually been successful at every other major tournament other than the Olympics for the last 8 years. That's obviously, in the sporting community, the Olympics is the microcosm of what they focus on. So unfortunately, they don't deem us a successful team. So it is a lot of pressure. You put a lot of pressure on yourself, because this could be your one opportunity to be an Olympian. This could be your last opportunity, or it could also never come around again, where you have the exact same team dynamics, the exact same experience. Olympics are so unique, and I don't think you can really replicate it in any other sport, because often other sports year on year out have that same opportunity. You look at AFL, there's an AFL grand final every year. For Olympics, you have that one opportunity every 4 years, and there's a lot of effort that goes into that 2 weeks, and a lot that can go wrong, and a lot that's out of your control. And so we've focused a lot on that piece of, if it is out of your control, you cannot focus on it. You cannot look so far into the future and start disaster planning or being paranoid. You just have to live in the bubble that is the controllable. And it's actually probably significantly helped a lot of girls, myself included, in managing that stress.
And stress, yes, like you said, all these different pressures from all these external things and how you're managing it. What kind of strategies do you use to manage different stress and different pressure that you've experienced along your career?
I probably found it in the last 4 years in particular of working, is having something outside of hockey that is so far removed from hockey that you can turn off that switch and go, I've left training now. I'm now solely focused on something so irrelevant to hockey that I don't have to think about how many bad tackles I made, how many miss hits, how many, my lack of fitness or my fatigue levels. That's helped me dramatically. And that's why I'm such an advocate of having something outside of your sport, is because it can make you move on and be, as I said before, be more resilient to all those little things that happen day in, day out. But also, being in a team, there's so much drama that pops up. And if you have an outlet outside of that, you can go, actually, this is not that dramatic, to be honest. I've experienced something in my work life that's way worse. And so it gives you perspective too. And that's what I found important.
Yeah, getting out of that bubble of hockey, and potentially on a bad day, maybe the group's having a bad day, and sometimes it's like, I don't want to see you at all until I have to for the rest of the day. So that's a really good point. I just want to I'm just going to have a look on screen here, because we're talking about cultures, and obviously there's a lot of great friendships in the team as well, from previous teams that you've played in along your career too. And I'm just going to take a little point out of your Wikipedia page, which has been, looks a little bit old, but that's okay. You've got your photo there of your profile picture of Georgie Parker, who was a fellow teammate years ago, but you look very nice as Georgie Parker as well. But I wanted to read something around your club hockey. So whilst living in Perth, she plays for Victoria Park Xavier Panthers Premier League women's competition, but wishes that she plays for Wesley South Perth Wasps, as they beat Victoria Park Panthers last year in the grand final. But Wasps didn't even make the final in 2020 when Victoria Park won. So it looks like someone's been stitching you up there on your wiki page.
Yeah, no, I know who it is. And they do like to do that type of stuff, but yeah, no, it is. I'd like Adelaide. Perth is a very small microcosm of hockey community, and so everyone, and they're pretty loyal to their clubs, and so whatever chance they can get, they like to stick it to you if they can.
Well, it just kind of made me think, like, obviously there's a bit of fun in all of that. What kind of things do the Hockeyroos do together just to have fun? There's lots of focus, lots of preparation on different tournaments. What do you guys do just to have fun and enjoy each other's company?
Yeah, it's a really hard thing to balance because we're a centralized program. We live in each other's pockets. And so the balance between spending time at training together and then also spending time away from hockey is really hard, because I know for myself, I have quite a low social battery. My job is quite social. I'm interacting with humans every day, and then I go to hockey and I'm again interacting. And so to then add on top of that daily social events with the team would send me really down a corridor I don't want to walk down, because then you become grumpy and you say things you don't mean, and etc. And so it's a really difficult balance. There's girls in the team that are incredibly social, and they maybe don't have a job like mine where I'm interacting with people all day, so they can have that capacity, but we're actually quite respectful of that amongst each other, and recognizing that just because someone's not turning up to the coffee we have every day after training because they're at work or they just need to recharge, that's okay. And they will come if and when they need to. But we're pretty good, like every Friday after training, often it'll be, let's go have a coffee, because most people don't work that day because we've got quite a longer training session and meetings. And so there is a concerted effort to, when we can and when appropriate, have those more social interactions. And often we're never talking about hockey because we've just been at hockey for 3 hours together. But it is really a difficult thing when you're centralised and already seeing each other every single day. But we do try balance it as best we can.
Yeah, that's cool. It sounds like you've got a pretty good balance there with the social aspects. I'm just curious around your leadership development over the time as well. Obviously, being a senior player, being in the leadership group, having captained a lot of games for the Hockeyroos already. What kind of training do you get as a leader, or what things have you taken from other leaders that you model? And what are those qualities that you really like to portray as a leader when you're working with the team?
Yeah, I think my leadership style's definitely developed over my career. Early on, if I was probably put in a leadership position when I first got into the Hockeyroos, I think I would have been a completely different leader to where I am at today. And then also witnessing a lot of different leadership styles within the team, and where my skill set sat. I got really off put by being in the leadership group because of the, I guess, leaders that came before me and how starkly different I was as a person. And it was sort of portrayed to me that, oh no, you have to be like that in order to be the leader of this team because that's what we're used to. And so when I initially got asked to be in the leadership group, I was like, oh no, I don't think I would be suitable for that because X, Y, and Z, these are my personality traits, and those that came before me didn't have those. And I was actually told probably a few years before I became a leader that, yeah, you're not suitable for it.
That would have felt really nice.
Yeah. And okay. And so your confidence just goes, okay, that's not going to be an option for me. And so Trini had to convince me quite heavily that I could do it, and we need diversity in leadership. You don't need like this kind of sheep mentality where this is the template, and if you don't fit in the template, then too bad. And you need different outlooks on life and styles, and that's why you have a leadership group, not just an individual person, so that each of your strengths and weaknesses can be kind of helped by another. So yeah, it was quite a difficult transition in that period of time where I was really battling against my internal dialogue that was quite negative to what was being asked of me externally. But so I probably leaned on, in terms of my leadership inspirations, I had a lot of conversations with ex-Hockeyroos Julia Haslam, who is actually from Adelaide and plays for your hockey club. But she is a legend of the sport, but also was captain of the Hockeyroos. And so I just kind of laid it out for her, and she kind of said, like, what's the risk of pursuing a leadership role if deep down you really love that type of work? The risk is the team turns around and says, oh, like, thanks, but no thanks. Like, that's a risk I think it's willing to take, considering that's likely not to happen. You've been nominated by your peers for a reason, and so explore those reasons. You can always develop in the role and always upskill, but don't be afraid to take the risk. So yeah, it took a lot of me kind of working through the mental side. But yeah, I think I've really grown into the role and changed a lot within the role. And I think that's key to leadership, willing to change rather than being stubborn in your ways and saying, this is how I am, if take it or leave it. I think, especially in a team sport, you can't afford to be that selfish. And so, yeah, I went into it asking for change, and we did a lot of leadership development over the last few years where we would interact with leaders from other sports, like we attended, I think, at least 4 different football clubs, a few different other female individual sports, and kind of interacted with them and understood where their leadership styles were and how they drove the group. And we actually realized we actually probably had pretty solid leadership foundation, and we just needed that extra confidence by looking at people outside of our bubble to go, oh, wow, we actually are pretty good at this.
Yeah, I think it's an awesome message for people. There's always going to be that fear and uncertainty, and embracing that and taking on the challenge, because now that you've done that, like how much growth have you had from being the person that was like, oh, I'm not sure if this is for me, I don't know how the team's going to respond, to now actually embracing it and going on that journey? What's changed for you in that time?
I think you become a lot more confident in what you have to offer. Yeah, there's times where you get it wrong, and that's what I came into the role saying. Like, I never say the right things. Like, sometimes I will come across really blunt because something's just connected straight from my brain to my mouth, and I've gone bleh. But circling back to that moment with people and going, okay, this is what I actually meant. I probably didn't say it in a way that was received very well. I've learned a lot of that type of skill, because I guess what I witnessed when I was coming through the team was individuals that were very calculated in everything they did, and they never seemed to make a mistake. And I was just like, I can't say the right thing to save my life. And so that's where I had a huge growth journey where I was like, and athletes have since come up to me and said, no, it's actually been refreshing to see someone that makes mistakes and doesn't always say the right thing, and can be quite blunt, because it's like it gives permission to others in the group that are of that similar personality type that it's okay. Like, you're gonna, as long as you circle back and you cover off what's been said, people in general will understand.
Yeah, the intention behind the message is always important. Either like the delivery can be very different depending on what stage of the game or how many laps are ran at training or whatever it is. Your fatigue levels obviously changing the tonality that you deliver some messages in, but the intention is always to improve people and improve the team and get the best outcome, I would imagine. So it's nice to know that there's different people in the team that are going to really welcome different leadership styles from a group, and to have that leadership group focus rather than, like you said, that one individual captain, which is really cool, playing off each other's strengths. I'm just wondering, you have 2 beautiful little dash hounds, Hugo and what is it? Harry. Hugo and Harry. How have they supported you on your journey, Jane? And if anyone wants to follow Hugo the Sausage on Instagram, his Instagram page is pretty elite, pretty funny, and you can always get a good laugh from him. So how have they supported your journey?
Yeah, they were actually came in here earlier, started crying, and I was like, oh no, this interview's about to go over. But yeah, Hugo came into my life probably 8 years ago now, and then Harry 3 years after. But yeah, huge distraction from hockey. They are like tiny little children, and unfortunately, I do spoil them. I also am not the sole responsibility for that. My parents, particularly their grandmother, is also, yeah, she spoils them way too much. And so they do have somewhat of an attitude. They are also sausage dogs, so naturally have small man syndrome. But yeah, they bring a lot of joy into your life. They get you out every evening to walk, to decompress, which you don't really understand at the time until you kind of reflect in these types of moments. You're like, yeah, okay, having 2 dogs has actually improved my quality of life and well-being immensely, because you come home and every time they're so happy to see you, and they have no idea what's happened with your day. They're just really excited that you're home and there's probably going to be food around the corner. And yeah, the simplicity of dogs and pets in general, I think, has a really positive impact on you.
So funny. So good. And I love that. It's almost like another connection outside of hockey, right? So, Jane, you've had an awesome career at the Hockeyroos already. You're one of the oldest in the group. Are you the oldest in the team? Yeah. Look, I know how that feels. So, I can empathise with you. So, after Paris, and when you look ahead with your future and maybe life after an elite athlete life, what does that look like for you, and sort of what sort of feelings does that give you thinking about what's next, after a career as an elite athlete?
Yeah, it's daunting because you've known a lot of your life. Like, whilst I've been in the Hockeyroos for 11 years, prior to that, I was in our state institute for 6 years. And so I've dedicated over half of my life to being an elite athlete. And then prior to that, developing those elite athlete skills from the age of 12, when I started, seeing that I really liked hockey and I was going on state trips. So it's defined a lot of your adult teenage years, and then to kind of go step away from that and not have that identity anymore, and people recognizing you for being a hockeyroo can be quite hard for people. That's why I've worked so hard on what my life is outside of hockey whilst I'm here, so I can actually see that there is a transition and that there isn't just kind of a stark stop and then I have to start something new, having not had that kind of bleed in period. And so yeah, I'm fortunate enough to have had parents that were like, you will study, you will get some form of kind of qualification outside of hockey, and then you will start work. That sounds quite blunt, but it was quite gentle at the time. And so I probably attribute a lot of my success away from the field in managing that to them, because yeah, whilst they are lovers of hockey and so passionate about hockey, it's not a lifetime job. It's not like we get paid a lot and after you get a cushy little coaching gig in a club team and you get paid a lot and then you can kind of just drift. Whereas, yeah, we have to have a professional life outside of that. And so, yeah, I've definitely, especially in the last 12 months, I know the time is coming. And so I've been thinking a lot about that and what it looks like. And I'm actually really excited for what that stage is. But my main challenge now is to stay in the present and go, it actually hasn't ended yet. And you do need to tick all the daily boxes that make you or made you have the career you've had. And so at the moment, I'm actually just trying to stay in the present and go, okay, every training I need to, be here rather than what's going to happen in a year's time or whenever I choose that transition. So yeah, it is a difficult thing to manage, of being prepared, but not living in that moment where you forget about your present and putting everything you have into what is your present, because you can't really circle back to being an elite athlete. It's kind of a finite period of your life, and you find out that quite late in your career that this is the period, and there is nothing else beyond.
Yeah, that's really nice to hear that you're embracing the journey, probably even more so now than ever before. And I know that we're going to see so many more great things from you before the end of an elite athlete career, and probably even beyond that, to be honest with you. I don't know if you'll ever stop. My perception is that you're just going to keep on going forever. So, but hey, that's me. So Paris is only like very, very close, only months away now. How are you feeling about it? How is the team? What's the vibe around the camp with Paris only a few months away?
Yeah, it's incredibly, every Olympic cycle build up is filled with anticipation, a bit of anxiety, a bit of stress. For hockey, it's even harder than I think other sports because our team is announced so late. It's probably about a month out from the Olympics we actually get notified as athletes if we've been successful in making the team. Whereas a lot of other athletes, they've probably been identified now. And so they get this period of whoof, relief. I'm going to the Olympics, definitely. Now let's take care of my body, get fit, be resilient, work on those things. We're still in the frame of mind is I need to prove my ability to the selectors in order to get into the team. So balancing that anxiety with developing as a team and developing our way of play and playing as a team is really, really hard because innately you'll want to be a bit selfish on the field and carry the ball a little bit longer or do a certain skill that potentially wasn't suitable for that scenario and you could have passed it to someone else. But yeah, it's a really difficult thing to balance. We do pretty well, I think, currently, but as that deadline approaches, it will be interesting to see how we navigate that. Luckily, as I said before, we've done a lot of work in the mental space and the psychological space. So I think we are very aware of that as a team and how to get out of it and have the skill sets in each of us to go, no, this is actually not benefiting the team. All I can do is control this. I cannot control if I'm going to be selected for the Olympics or not. So yeah, this is such a huge balance, especially in our sport. But I think we're on the right path. Yeah, hindsight might tell me differently, but at the moment, I think we're really progressing well in that cohesion piece.
Yeah, and you've got all different coaches involved, and you said, the big focus on the mindset as well, because sometimes, I've had conversations with people around athlete development and stuff, probably more roots level, but there's such a big focus on strength and conditioning, obviously, and it's become such a good norm now for, general population to really focus on strength training. And then you've got so much technology as well, putting data into that training and your skill acquisition and things like that. The mindfulness is just that next level, next step up. So how often do you need to practice mindfulness to keep you in the zone? Like, is it an individual basing, or as a team, do you have certain requirements that you need to hit in terms of mindfulness practice?
Yeah, so on game day, it's probably a lot more prevalent because a lot of your like hormones and arousal are really peak. Your body's kind of in that flight or fight response. It doesn't know all you're doing is playing hockey. It just thinks it's preparing for something really horrific. And so we do a lot more on game day to kind of level out those types of emotions, thoughts, feelings. And you can probably see if you do happen to watch a lot of our games prior to our warm-up starting, we do a lot of mindfulness. It will look like we're literally standing on the sideline just looking at the pitch. But in those moments, that's when we're kind of implementing the skills we've learned off the pitch to kind of recenter ourselves, to allow or facilitate ourselves to execute best performance. So a lot more present on game day. However, in our DTE, which we consider DTE is called daily training environment, we do it all, try to implement it a lot prior to big training sessions. It's a thing that you have to train, just like, as you said, your strength, your conditioning, your mind is a huge muscle that if you don't do it every day, you will forget about it. And when you're trying to then implement it on game day, it's a bit useless. And so we're trying at the moment to integrate it into the small moments during training, whether it's in between drills, whether it's in a mini game and there's a small break, implementing it into those types of scenarios. So you're constantly training that aspect as well.
And have you noticed have you noticed a difference since having more structure around the mindfulness being implemented at training and at games? Have you noticed a difference in terms of people's mindsets?
Yeah, it's incredible. I didn't realize how many thoughts go through some of my teammates' heads before they've even trapped a ball. I was blown away. I'm probably a personality that I'm so zoned in when I'm playing hockey. I am like attention to detail and what in every scenario that it's never really impacted me that heavily. But yeah, it was so interesting during this kind of journey hearing some of the narratives people were telling themselves. They would mistrap one ball at the start of a match, and that dictated the entire rest of the match for them. And it was incredible to see the change in each individual when they've mistrapped the ball here, and then one moment later they're doing something incredible again because they've been able to go, that doesn't define me, like here are my mental processes, here's the physiological things I do to calm myself down and remove the attachment to that moment, and then they move on. It seems quite simple now. When we were developing that skill, it took a lot longer, and that's why you have to do it on a more of a daily basis. But yeah, I was amazed at the growth in some girls, and it literally was, they could do the skill and training, and then suddenly in a game it would be so different. And then now there's such a proximity to training and game performance because of that mental aspect. And it was literally this mental shield that was blocking them from doing it. And so yeah, I didn't believe in it until these last few years, and I was like, wow, no, okay, the mental side of sport is a significant problem or thing that we need to work on as athletes. It's probably over half the reason as to why you perform or you don't perform.
Yeah, it's really cool that a lot of people are shifting to include that. And like you said, it's a big muscle, the mind. You have to train it. So hearing your experience and seeing and noticing all the difference has, I was always a big believer in it, but it's really cool to hear that you're noticing such a big difference in people from, like you mentioned, not having the emotional attachment to that one scenario that might have happened at the start of a game, and have it infect their game for the rest of the time, or even the rest of the tournament in some cases. So that's really cool. Well, Jane, it's been awesome to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. And there's some really good insights, not only into the elite athlete world, but leadership with groups of teams, and how to better prepare teams and better prepare leaders who are leading groups. So thank you so much for sharing all your stories. And good luck for Paris. We'll be cheering for you and the Hockeyroos and the coaching staff and everyone that makes all those things work the way that it needs to. So good luck, and we hope that you come back with a medal.
No, thanks for having me. It's leadership's a difficult beast, and I think more and more people should be exposed to it. It's such a great opportunity, but also don't be scared of it. Don't allow others' opinions of what leaders should be impact if you engage in that type of role.
Awesome. Some beautiful lasting words from Jane there. So thanks so much, Jane, and we'll see you on the field soon.
Thank you.
Lead your ship and discover your potential. The LeadUrship program from Pearl Potential Coaching and Hypnotherapy is for young leaders who are looking to make your mark early in your field. You can stand out from your fellow peers and colleagues by taking charge of your journey and living life to your fullest potential. Sign up now for the LeadUrship program, where you will learn new skills and strategies that can be used within your career and personal life. We know that when you lead your ship, you can open new opportunities to grow and learn. And the more opportunities you embrace, the more you will lead with purpose, intention, and full alignment to who you are. The LeadUrship course offers exciting and new things such as choice, modeling, embracing uncertainty, setting boundaries, and leveling up your communication and presentation skills. This is a great opportunity at an affordable price to set yourself apart and reach your leadership potential. You will be offered different course electives so you can focus on areas of improvement. With multiple opportunities to check in with me, Alison, the Leadership Program developer and owner of Pearl Potential Coaching and Hypnotherapy. I am so excited to see you navigate this new journey and watch you set sail into new destinations that you have never explored. We will uncover your pearls of wisdom and create a brighter and better future for you as a leader and those that you influence. Come on board and explore the ocean of possibilities. Be your captain, lead your ship, and discover your potential.